All right, we're going to try this out. This meeting's being recorded. Okay. I'm going to shrink this. I think that's what we'll have to do. Can I make this smaller? No. Okay, well, sorry for the technical difficulties. Hopefully we can do this. All right. Here's a weird. I want to cover some Git basics today. I hope this has been recorded. So Git is a version control system. Basically, all the changes that you make get committed and they get tracked in a repository. And you can, by using Git, you can roll back files to an older version. Also allows for like collaboration and all kinds of stuff. So it's great. When you get started with Git, the two basic commands are you add the files, you stage files that you want to commit, and then you commit them. So you got git add, and you put in the name of the file that you want to commit. And then you do git commit, and then you write a little description. You do -m, write a little description of the commit. Another very important command that you want to use very frequently is git status. Okay, git status tells you the status of the repository. Sorry, give me a second here, and it will let you know like what is in the staging area, what changes have been made, things like that. And as you are new to Git, frequently use git status, and I think this will help you understand how Git works. So the idea here is as you work, as you write scripts, as you work on your notebooks, things like that, you know, you make changes in your working directory. And then the changes that you want to commit, you first have to add them to a staging area. So you're going to do git add file name. And then, or if you have a whole bunch of files and you want to stage all of those changes all at once, you do git add dot, and that's going to do all of the changes that have been made. And then once you're happy with that, you're going to do git commit, and then -m, and then in quotes, you know, the description of the commit. So it'll be something like updated, you know, file A, updated files A and B, or something like that. And that will be tracked in your local repository. It might feel a little bit redundant having to do both a git add and a git commit. Why don't we just say, you know, commit these changes? And the reason why Git breaks these up is that it's, you know, its philosophy is that all the changes made to a repository should be logical and small changes that can be easily understood. And as you're working, your workflow doesn't necessarily reflect this kind of style. So as you're working, you might be modifying multiple files all at once. It's not uncommon to have several tabs open, several documents open all at once, and kind of be working at all of them. And you might say, okay, now I'm ready to save some changes, but you don't necessarily want to save all 10 files all at the same time in one commit, okay? You might want to break that up into multiple different commits, because you might want to say like, okay, I just want to save the changes made to the data files, and that will be one commit. I want to just save the changes or commit the changes made to, you know, this particular script that works on this particular feature. I want to just save or commit the changes made to, you know, the documentation. So you might want to break these up. And so you can do this. And you say, I want to put these two files in the staging area and commit that change. I want to put this file in the staging area and commit that change. I want to put, these different things, and you can break up the, you have 10 files that you've changed, and you can break that up into, 4 different commits, 5 different commits, however many commits that you want to do. And all of those changes are going to be logged in the log, git log. Okay, so this is another important feature, and that is git log. Okay, git log lists all of the different commits, all of the different changes that have been made to the repository. This log can end up being quite long, and so chances are it'll be multiple pages at some point in time. And so to kind of get to the next page, you just hit the space bar, okay? And that will go to the next page in the log. And then when you want to exit the log, you just tap the letter Q, and that will quit out of the log, okay? And let's say you want to roll back a file to an old version found in the log, okay? You can always, you can use this checkout. So you say, I want to check out this file, and you do git checkout. Each commit in the log has a hash. So it'll be like, I just made one up, AB123EF. The hash is usually like 50 characters long. It's really long. You only need the first few, maybe first 6 or 7 characters. And that will probably uniquely identify the hash. And then you say, okay, within that commit, that might be from like last Tuesday or whatever. And you might say like, okay, you know what? I want to extract this particular file from that commit. So you do git checkout, the name of that particular commit in the timeline, and then the name of the file that you want to kind of restore from that older version. And that's how you can do that, okay? As you work through these changes, okay, if you want to kind of see, what is inside a particular commit, you can call git show. Git show will show the contents of the commit with whatever hash you have, right? So if you have some hash, again, the hashes are, 50, 60 characters long. You just list off the first 6 or 7 characters, and you say, git show this particular thing, and it will tell you like, okay, this is what has happened. And you'll see kind of like a minus, minus, minus A, and then the file name. This is the file before the commit, and then plus, plus, plus B / the file name, and that's going to be the file after the commit. And then you'll see stuff, gibberish that looks like this, minus 23, 4, plus 23, 5. And this says it's going to show, changes starting at line 23. We're going to see 4 lines from the file before the change, and then you're going to see 5 lines from the file after the change, just kind of, because, your file might have like hundreds of lines, and it just wants to show you the relevant bits that have changed. And if there is a line in the file that has no changes, you're going to see it's just going to appear white. And if a line in the file has been removed, it will appear in red, and there will be a minus sign in front of it. And then if a line in the file has been added, you're going to see that line appear in green with a plus sign in front of it. Sorry if this is difficult to read, but it's kind of what it looks like, when you do git show. It's going to show you like, okay, here's the file. This, and oftentimes you might have a line where you just added a word to that line, okay? And to kind of show it, it's, let's say the line was like, before it used to be hello, and now you're going to say hello world, okay? What it's going to show is it's going to say, we deleted the line that said hello in red, and it's going to say, I added a line in green that says hello world, okay? Even though all you did was just add a word to that one line, it appears as we deleted the line that said hello, we've added a line that says hello. That's what what changes in a commit will look something like that. And that's a very, 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 very brief introduction to Git. I've assigned a little bit of homework on Data Camp on using Git, and that should give you a little bit of exposure. And really, the best way to get familiar with Git is just to force yourself to use it. okay? Just to kind of force yourself to use it, try it out. You'll get used to it, okay? It feels weird. It feels strange, like having to like type all of these things out to like save your files and stuff like that, because the stuff gets saved on your computer, but this idea of like committing your changes so you can kind of reverse things is kind of the point of Git. And you know, a benefit of Git is that I think we're familiar with this process of writing documents, and then you say like essay final version, essay final version 2, essay final version 3, essay final version, this is the one. And you know, we kind of rename our files as we're going along and things like that. And by using Git, it eliminates the need for all of these kind of like copies where we've made little changes and things like that. And anytime we want to roll something back, you can just check the log and roll back to an older document. Okay. GitHub is a website that uses Git. Okay. So Git and GitHub are not, it's not like GitHub owns Git. Okay. So Git is this technology, this software that allows us to kind of commit changes and make all of this stuff. GitHub is a website that uses Git, and it incorporates that. So one of the big features of GitHub is that it hosts remote repositories. So you could use Git on your computer and never touch GitHub, and that's fine, okay? But like if your computer explodes, then you lose the stuff on your computer, right? And so, you know, a lot of us probably have some kind of cloud-based thing, you know, like Dropbox, or UCLA, you get a Box account and things like that, where it's like, okay, now all of the stuff on your computer is getting copied to some other computer. We call this the cloud, but it's really just someone else's computer. And we're like, okay, and I hope they don't ever like peek at my stuff. And GitHub is kind of like that, where it's like you use Git to create a repository on your computer, and then you could say, I want to copy everything that's in my local Git repository to this other computer that's owned by GitHub. Okay, GitHub is now owned by Microsoft, but I think they're doing an okay job. There's other similar services, GitLab, Bitbucket. GitHub is still kind of this one of the most popular sites. A lot of open source projects are hosted on GitHub, and I think it's a good thing to have. And actually, for this class, I'm going to force you all to create a GitHub account. And, you know, at some point in the future, when you apply for jobs, you can use your GitHub as kind of a portfolio showing stuff that you're working on. And you know, prospective employers might actually look you up on GitHub, right? So there's, these days, I think people kind of look on your social media account to make sure you're not saying anything too crazy. And then they might also check your GitHub to see like, oh, are you actually writing stuff in code? And, you know, what does your code look like? And, you know, is it readable, or is it like this crazy mess, or things like that? Okay, before I get into that, let me give you your first view quiz answer. Week 1, Monday, is the letter E, E as an elephant. E as an elephant. Okay. Again, using GitHub is not required per se. I'm going to make you do it for this class. But again, if you just want to use Git on your local machine, that's entirely possible. And if you want to use a different company's kind of resources for remote repositories, that's also possible. Okay. There's a few ways you can set up to get your local computer to talk with the repositories on GitHub. And, you know, one way is to set your local repository up on your machine and then sync it to GitHub. I think the easier way is to first create the repository on GitHub and then clone it down to your local repository and then make changes that way. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate working through this. And so I have two GitHub accounts, okay? I have my personal, or I guess just as a professor, I have my GitHub account where I'm going to host like course stuff and the class files. But I also have a GitHub account where I pretend to be a student, okay? And this is to demonstrate what you should be doing as a student, right? Because obviously what you're doing is going to be different from what I, the professor, am doing. So I'm going to pretend to be a student in this other GitHub account. And so, so here, this is me. I look like I'm 12, but I think I'm like legit 20 years old or 21 years old in this photo. It's like from 20 years ago. So yeah, I've been, I guess, a blessing / a curse. I don't know if I still look young, but but this is what I looked like when I was 20 years old. Anyway, so I created an account. It says Miles Chen student. And I want to demonstrate the creation of a repository and then copying that to a local machine. So also on my computer here, I've got two terminal windows. This one is me, the professor's terminal window. And then here I have a Linux virtual machine running. And this is to simulate me being the student. This is like my terminal window as a student. And this is kind of like what you would have, right? So hopefully you know how to open up terminal on your local machines, and you could write, something like ls to create a, to list off. So I already have a repository called class demo. Okay, the first thing we need to do is we need to authorize our computer to talk to GitHub. Okay, so GitHub, has these security measures so that a random stranger can't suddenly just make changes to your repositories. So what you will need to do is you will go to, here I need to, so under your account, you're going to come over to settings. And what we need to do is we need to generate an SSH key. So in the top right-hand corner, you click your little face. This menu pops up. You're going to go to settings, and in the settings, you're going to go over to SSH and GPG keys. Okay, and so we want to set up an SSH key. So let me do this. Okay, so you can click this link. You can also just go on Google and type generate GitHub generate new SSH key, and that should take you to this page here, generating a new SSH key. And this is basically the command that that you will copy here. Okay, so for my so here, the email associated, I think, is mileschen@UCLA. Obviously, you'll write your thing. So I'm going to just copy this SSH keygen, -keygen, or here, I'll just type it out. So I'm going to do SSH-keygen -t ed25519. So this is assuming, sorry, before I get started, this is assuming you have Git installed on your machine. So to just check if you have Git even installed on your machine, you can type in git -- version. And if it comes back and it says Git version this, then you have Git installed on your machine, okay? Git version 2 something something, you have Git installed. If it comes back and says like Git is an unknown command or something, then you don't have Git installed. And so I guess maybe I should back up, and to install Git, you're going to search for git scm, and you're gonna download and install Git, okay? I think it'll auto-detect what system you have, and you'll have that. So if you have Mac, it's already probably pre-installed. If you don't, if you have Windows, you might have to download this and install it. So, and then if you're on Windows, one thing you can do is you can open up Git Bash. So you type in Git Bash, and this will open up Git Bash. And so if you have Git Bash, you can type in Git version, and here it says I've got Git version 242, the Windows version or something like that. Okay, so so first we want to make sure you have Git installed on your computer, and now I'm going to generate an SSH key. Here, let me see if I can make this. Let me see if I can make this text bigger. Maybe that's easier. Okay, so this is what we're doing. So I'm going to do SSH-keygen-t. The cryptographic scheme is ED25519 -C dash, and then here I'm going to do mileschen@ucla.edu. That's the email address I have associated with my account. And here it says, where do you want to save your SSH? It says generate public private ED25519 key pair, enter file in which you want to save the key. The default is going to be ID ED25519, and that is fine. So I'm going to not enter anything. I'm going to just hit enter. Here it says, oh, you know what? You already have something. That's fine. I'm going to just overwrite it. You probably won't get that, but here I'm just demonstrating this. One thing that's going to pop up is it's going to say enter a passphrase. Okay. Now I recommend leaving this empty for no passphrase if you're the only one using your computer. Okay. If you're on a public machine, sure, enter a passphrase. But in general, I would say leave this blank just because it's going to get really tedious. Every time you want to make a commit, if you have to enter your passphrase into a Git. So I would say leave this blank, empty for no passphrase, enter the same passphrase. Again, I'm going to just hit enter to kind of leave a passphrase. And it says the key fingerprint is this, and here's your key's random art image. And that's fine. Okay. So here, I'm going to do ls-a. This is going to list off all of the things. All of the keys got generated in this .ssh folder. The dot at the beginning of a folder name means it's hidden. So when I normally do ls, it's not going to normally show up there. But here it's in .ssh. So I'm going to change to .ssh, cd, change directory to .ssh, list off in there, and I have ID underscore ED 25519.pub, ID ED 25519. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to copy the contents of my public key, and I'm going to copy that public key contents onto my GitHub account. This is how GitHub is going to know that this particular computer is authorized to make changes to the files in your account. So your computer has now a public and a private key. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back to my GitHub account under SSH and GPG keys. I'm going to go new SSH key. All right. And then I'm going to call this, I don't know, my laptop Linux VM. This is the thing that I have over here. I want to copy the contents of my public key. So I'm going to cat ID underscore ED 25519.pub. So I want to copy the contents of my public key. and I get this SSH, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to highlight that. I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to come back over here onto my GitHub account, and I'm going to paste it. And that copies my public key into my GitHub account. So I've done that now, okay? And so now I have an SSH key on my GitHub account, and you're going to want to do something similar where you go through this process of generating an SSH key. So ssh.keygen, you type in all of the stuff, and then you have to go to your SSH directory, copy the contents. You do cat, the name of the pub, the .pub, not the one without the pub, okay? The .pub is the public one. You're going to copy that and paste that into the list of SSH keys on GitHub. Excuse me. Okay, and with that, we can now our computer is now going to be authorized to talk to GitHub. So let me go back to my home directory. I'm going to do cd tilde. This takes me back to my home directory. Okay, so on GitHub, let me go back. So we'll go back to GitHub here. And what I want to do now is I want to just kind of create, so I think I copied all of this. I want to create a repository and clone it, okay? So let's see. So the SSH key is probably going to be in your .ssh folder, and you can either open it with a text editor and copy it. On Mac, you can actually, oh, I forgot, you can do clip, and you can take the contents of that, and that'll copy it to your keyboard, clipboard. And then under GitHub, under settings keys, you'll add a new SSH key. All right. So hopefully that works for you. And so this is what we want to do, is we are going to create a new repository on GitHub, and we're going to clone that repository to our local machine. So I'm going to come over to GitHub. I think this is what, when you log into GitHub, this is what it looks like. This is, again, my student account. I'm going to come over here where it says new. We're going to make a new repository. Okay, and I'm going to just call this my_demo. This is going to be the name of my repository, and this will be just demonstration repository. And that's it. So owner, Miles Chen student, repository name, my demo, description, optional, but I'm going to just enter that in there. Public, initialize this repository with a README file. Sure. All right, or I can just, yeah. Here, yeah, we'll go ahead and do add a README file. And I'm going to just click create a repository. So I now have a new repository on GitHub. Okay. And the contents of this repository is just this readme.markdown file. And this is what I have. So what I want to do is I want to clone this repository to my local computer. Okay. So in this top right corner, I have this green button that says code. And we are going to, there's a few options here. HTTPS, we're going to use the SSH option. Okay. And there's this little bit of code here. I'm going to copy that. It says git at github.com, Miles Chen student, my demo.g. We're going to just clone it using that thing. Okay. And then what we are going to do is we are going to tell Git on our local machine to clone this particular repository. So I'm going to do this in the home directory, and I'm going to do git clone, and I'm going to paste the text from that from this green code box, the git at github.com. This is the address of the GitHub repository. So I'm going to type in git space clone, the address of this thing. I hit enter, and it says it's cloning into my_demo. So if I say list off the contents of my home directory, I can now see that my_demo is a file or a folder in my home directory. And I can change, I'll do cd my_demo. And this is now, I'm now in my demo repository folder. I can hit ls, and I can see I have the readme.md file. And this is a Git repository because if I type in git status, it tells me I'm on branch. Your branch is up to date with origin/main. There's nothing to commit, working tree clean. Okay, so what I've done is I created a repository on GitHub, and I have cloned it onto my computer. And so now what I can do is I can make changes to the repository on my computer, and then I can push those changes up to GitHub. Let me give you your second view quiz answer. Second view quiz answer today is the letter C, C as in cat. C as in cat is your second view quiz answer. So let me just demonstrate this, okay? I'm going to edit this file, readme.md. I'm going to, in Linux, Mac OS, and if you use Git Bash, you can also use Nano. Nano is a simple text editor. I'm going to say, open up the readme.md file with Nano. This is the contents of my readme.md file, okay? Heading is my demo, demonstration repository, and then I'm going to just say, let's add a list of things I like. Okay, so I like, I don't know, hamburgers and UCLA and Git and Python. Okay, all right. So this is what I've added to my markdown file, and we are going to save it. Okay, so I'm going to do Control O. That's what this is. Control O is write, or basically save. And file name to write will be readme.md. I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. And then I'm going to do exit, Control X to exit. Okay. All right. So now if I type git status, it's going to say this has been modified. Readme.md has been modified. So what I want to do is I want to commit these changes to my repository. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to do git add. It says right now, no changes to commit. Use git add and or git commit. Okay, so I'm going to do git add. We're going to add the README file. And one thing about Git is there's tab completion, or actually just generally on Bash, there's tab completion. So I'm going to type in git add, capital R, capital E, and then the rest of the file, I'm just going to hit tab, and it fills in the rest because it says, oh yeah, there's only one file that starts with a capital R and capital E. So now I've added this, and let's check up on the status. So I'm going to type in git status, and it says, now in green, readme.md, this is a change that's ready to be committed. It's in the staging area. So I'm going to go ahead and do git commit -m, and I'm going to say modified the readme with a list of things I like. Okay, so that is going to be the thing. I've now committed this change. So if I do git status, it says nothing to commit, working tree clean, but now it says your branch is ahead of origin main by 1 commit, okay? Origin main indicates origin is the remote repository, basically GitHub. Origin in this case means GitHub, your GitHub repository. And it says my local computer is 1 commit ahead of what is on the internet. So if I refresh this right now, it's just my demo demonstration repository. what I need to do is I have to take the changes I made locally and I need to push them onto GitHub on the internet. And so this is done by using git push. I'm going to take my local changes and I'm going to push them. Okay. And I'm allowed to do this because I set up the SSH key. If you don't have your SSH key, it's going to say you're not allowed to do this. Your computer's not authorized to make changes to your GitHub account. Okay. But because I've done it, it has now worked. And so I've pushed these changes. If I do git status, now it says your branch is up to date with origin main. And then if I come back to GitHub and I refresh this page, okay, we can see those changes I made where I said, these are the things I like, hamburgers, UCLA, Git, and Python. These are now updated on the readme.md file, right? So these are the things, okay? And if you want, GitHub itself has some nice features. You can click, let's go back in history. All right, here are the 2 commits in the past, right? So the initial commit, this is what it looks like. This is basically the only file. And then when I modified the README with a list of things I like, this is the caption I did. Here it says, oh yeah, these are all the things that you added, okay? And so you can kind of go back, GitHub has this nice feature where you can kind of see the changes that were done as you do your commits. We can come over here to git log and we could see, all right, these are the different things, and we can, go back and check out the older file and stuff like that, okay? And, you could do this here as well. You could, browse the repository at this moment in time and things like that, okay? So that is kind of how GitHub works. So we've cloned our repository. And so to summarize what I've done, we make changes to the files that we want. We add those changes to the staging area. We commit those changes to our local repository. And then I push your local repository's changes to the remote repository on GitHub. That's what we've done. You can also do the opposite. So in GitHub, you can actually make changes directly, right? So here I can edit this file directly on GitHub. All right, and I'm going to just say, I want to, let's add more stuff. I don't know, things I don't like. I don't know. Things I don't like. Mosquitoes. All right. Is that how you spell mosquitoes? E-S, okay, all right. So let's go ahead and just do that. All right, we're gonna commit changes here. Commit message, update readme.md. Yeah, we'll go ahead and commit those changes. So now these have been changed. And so if I go to my repository, now I have 3 commits. And now I have a thing, I've added a few more lines here, okay? And if I come over here and I do git status, right now, this has no idea that there have been changes made on GitHub. So what I have to do is I have to fetch those changes. So I could do a git fetch and a git merge, but here we're gonna call git pull. We're gonna pull any changes that happened to the remote repository. So right now, if I say what's the contents, if I just do cat readme.md, it's gonna have just kind of the older version. Here I'm gonna do git pull, and it's gonna go and it's gonna check GitHub, and it says, okay, I see there have been changes being made, and now I've pulled them here, okay? So here's readme.md. I can say, all right, let's see the contents of readme.md, and now it has downloaded and updated my files accordingly with things I don't like, okay? So that's how you can kind of synchronize your thing. Okay, so the way it's gonna work for this class is I have a repository setup. Okay, 2023 fall stats 21. This is the repository for this class. So on your account, what you need to do is you need to go to my repository, me, the professor's repository, Smiles Chen, and here is the public repository here. And what we want to do is we want to fork, okay? We want to copy basically this repository from the professor's account to your GitHub account. So you're going to click, so while you are logged in on your account, you're going to click fork, and it says fork your own copy of this. So I click fork, and it says create a fork, and we're just going to click create a fork. And basically, this takes the professor's repository and creates basically a copy of it onto your GitHub account. Okay, and so now under your student account, you have different things. And so now we have 2023 fall stats 21 for this. And then similarly, you are going to clone this. So using the code thing, you're going to come to the SSH code, and we're going to clone this. And let me go back to my home directory. So cd tilde back to my home directory. And we're going to do git clone, and we're going to paste that. Okay. So this is going to copy and clone the repository to our local machine. So now I have 2023. So I can change to 2023 fall stats 21, and we can see we have the PDFs and the lectures so far. Okay. And okay, so let me give you your last view quiz answer. Last view quiz answer is the letter C. C as in cat. C as in cat is the last view quiz answer. And then what we need to do, and I'm going to run out of time here, is you are going to have to set what's called an upstream repository. Okay, so this thing, the repository on my student account here, if I type in git remote -v, this will list off the remote repositories on GitHub associated with this. Okay, and right now it's just Miles Chen -student here. Okay, what we need to do is we need to copy a reference to the professor's GitHub repository. Okay, so I'm going to go to code and come here, and we are going to copy this SSH address, and I want to do a git remote. I did reference the exact thing. Okay, you want to do git remote add upstream. We're going to add an upstream repository, and this is going to be this one needs to say Smiles Chen. All of you, your upstream repository will say Smiles Chen because that references the professor's repository. Okay, and when you do that, now if I type git remote -v, there's going to be 4 things listed. We have the origin, which is your account, and then you have upstream, which is the professor's account. And the way you're going to synchronize your contents with the professor's contents is you are going to fetch or pull from the upstream repository. So when I, the professor, make changes, you're going to pull those changes by saying git pull upstream. And then that will pull the ones from the professor's repository. And then you could push those to your personal kind of GitHub repository. Okay, we'll go through this on Wednesday to kind of demonstrate how you're going to synchronize this. And in the beginning, using Git is awkward and clunky, but I promise you, I'm pretty sure you will come to appreciate the efficiency that Git offers in synchronizing a bunch of files. Okay, so we'll go ahead and end here for today. Have a great rest of your day. And let's see.